During my baby shower, my brother announced he got into Stanford. Then they turned it into his party while I scrubbed frosting off the floor. I didn't argue, but the next morning my mom found something on the kitchen table and started screaming. They say your baby shower is supposed to be a celebration. A soft, loving day filled with pastel decorations and polite laughter and people cooing over tiny socks. That's what I pictured when I spent the last 2 weeks planning it. Not a lavish party, just something warm. Something mine. I paid for the food myself. I ordered the cake, picked out the decorations, and even cleaned the living room so it wouldn't smell like old takeout and my dad's cigars. I made a playlist of quiet acoustic songs, the kind I imagine my daughter might fall asleep to someday. I strung paper garlands across the window myself, standing on a stool at 8 months pregnant because no one offered to help. And I did it all thinking maybe for just one afternoon they'd be happy for me. At first it looked like that might actually happen. A few relatives trickled in with wrapped gifts. My aunt brought baby books. My cousin handed me a little stuffed fox and said it looked like something I would have carried around as a kid. I thought maybe, just maybe, this would be okay. Then my parents stood up in front of everyone. My mom tapped her wine glass with a fork and cleared her throat, smiling like she was about to announce a pregnancy of her own. My dad had his arm around her shoulders. I saw Roger out of the corner of my eye, shifting from foot to foot, trying not to grin. Before we cut the cake, my mom said, voice syrupy sweet, we just want to share a little surprise. I knew that tone. That wasn't my moment. Roger stepped forward, holding a letter like it was the Olympic torch. I got in, he said, beaming. Stanford. Full acceptance. Everyone clapped. Someone even hooped. My aunt gasped and rushed over to hug him. The same aunt who just 10 minutes earlier was telling me how excited she was to meet my baby. The energy shifted immediately. You could feel it. Like someone cracked open a bottle labeled Better News, and everyone got drunk on it. My baby shower turned into a college acceptance party in less than 5 minutes. No one said it out loud, but it didn't need to be said. The shift was physical. Chairs scraped toward Roger. My carefully set snack table became his congratulatory buffet. My cake sat untouched. Then his friends arrived. Not mine. His. A flood of loud voices and backpack-strapped high school seniors barging in like they owned the place. One of them shouted, "Where's the party at?" And another already had a speaker in hand. Music. Loud music. Bass that shook the windows and drowned out the lullaby playlist I'd spent 2 hours curating. I was still holding a cup of ginger tea someone had handed me. Still wearing the soft pink sash my cousin bought that said Mom-to-be. No one looked at me. They moved the gifts off the main table to make room for drinks. My mom told me casually that we'd cut the cake later when things calmed down. Then the cake got moved to. Someone set a soda bottle next to it, which tipped, leaving a trail of fizz down the side. I picked up a napkin and started blotting it. The frosting had smeared onto the table. I got down on my knees to wipe it properly before it dried. And while I was kneeling, 8 months pregnant, wiping frosting off the floor like some afterthought maid, someone stepped over me to hug Roger. They didn't even say excuse me. I stayed there for a few seconds. Just crouched on the floor, hands sticky with icing, breathing in deep through my nose while they laughed and shouted over my head. I could hear Roger in the other room talking about campus visits and dorm preferences. My mom was bragging about the tutors they'd hired to help him reach his potential. The same mom who told me at 16 that college was a scam and I should just get a job at the supermarket. So I did. I worked shifts until my feet ached, then came home and packed shipping boxes for my tiny online shop. I figured things out on my own. And when my business started to grow, I didn't ask them for anything. I paid bills. I saved. I bought this house with money they didn't even know I had. But somehow they still believed it was theirs. My mom once said I was lucky to be able to live at home during my pregnancy. She said it like she was doing me a favor, forgetting I paid the mortgage, the utilities, and even part of Roger's tutoring last year. It all played in my head as I slowly stood up, sticky napkins still in hand. I looked around the room. My decorations were crumpled. My baby name banner had been pushed aside to make space for a hand-drawn sign that said, "Congrats, Roger." I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I walked to the kitchen, washed my hands, dried them on a dish towel, and I went to my room. I closed the door, sat on the bed. My back ached. My feet were swollen, but my head was clear. Down the hall, the music thumped like a pulse that didn't belong to me. I picked up my phone. Opened a folder I'd been quietly building for weeks. I didn't argue. But I also didn't forget. I used to think things were equal when we were little. That we were just two kids in the same storm trying to stay dry under the same leaking roof. But when I look back now, I can see the way the scales were always tipped. Even in the small things. When I was 6 and Roger was 4, he threw my favorite doll in the fireplace. I cried for an hour. My mom told me it was my fault for leaving it where he could reach it. When I said that wasn't fair, she sent me to my room for talking back. Roger got dessert that night. I didn't. In 3rd grade, I won 2nd place in the spelling bee. I came home beaming, holding the ribbon like it was made of gold. My dad glanced at it and said, "Just 2nd? Maybe next year." When Roger won a participation medal in a soccer tournament, they threw him a pizza party. When I got AB on a math test in 8th grade, my dad said, "Well, at least you're trying." When Roger got the same grade a year later, he got a tutor and a full lecture about unlocking his brilliance. I was expected to help around the house because I was more mature. I did dishes while Roger played video games. I cleaned while he got praised for remembering to take out the trash once a week. I was told to be patient, to be grateful, to set an example. The older I got, the more invisible I became. When I was 16 and said I wanted to go to college, my mom laughed. "College? For what? So you can waste 4 years and come out in debt. Oh honey, you're better off getting a job and saving up." So I did. I applied to everything. Grocery stores, retail warehouses. I got hired at a discount clothing store and worked the floor during Black Friday while Roger was still in middle school. By the time he was 16, he had a brand new laptop, 3 private tutors, and a college prep coach. My parents took out a small loan to cover it. They called it an investment. They never asked me if I needed help with anything. I remember once at 17 I got into a minor car accident on the way to work. I wasn't hurt, just shaken. I called my mom from the side of the road. She sighed and said, "You should have been more careful," then hung up. 2 years later, Roger dented his fender in a parking lot and my dad left work early to go comfort him. He told everyone at dinner that night how grown-up Roger had been for calling him. At 19 I started my online shop. It was small, just reselling clearance items and shipping them from my bedroom. I packed orders at night, sometimes falling asleep beside the printer. I never told anyone how many returns I had to eat, how often shipping delays made customers furious. I just kept going. And slowly it worked. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't flashy. But it was stable. Enough to quit my job. Enough to build something real. When I bought the house, I didn't tell my parents right away. I just invited them over and handed them the keys. My mom cried. My dad patted Roger on the back and said, "Now your sister has a place where we can all be together." They moved in the next month. They never asked if they should contribute. Never offered to split bills. They acted like I was doing what any daughter would do. I let it slide. I told myself it was temporary. I thought maybe if I gave enough, they'd finally see me. When I told them I was pregnant, I expected shock. Disappointment maybe. What I got was worse. "Oh," my mom said, blinking. "Well, I guess that's happening." My dad asked if the father was in the picture. I said no. They nodded. No follow-up. No congratulations. They told Roger at dinner the next night. He laughed and said, "Guess we'll have to baby-proof the Xbox." I laughed too. But only because it was easier than crying. When I offered to hire someone part-time to take over some of my order fulfillment so I could rest during the last few months of pregnancy, my dad asked, "Are you sure you can afford that? What about Roger's application fees?" I wish I could say that was the moment I snapped. But it wasn't. It was just another stone in a pocket already full of them. Still something shifted. Quietly. I started researching. Asking questions. Preparing. Because if they weren't going to protect me, I had to protect myself. And my daughter. I didn't want her first memories to be of me cleaning up after people who only saw me as a resource. I didn't want her to learn that love had to be earned with silence and sacrifice. So I kept smiling. Kept helping. Kept saying, "Sure, no problem," every time someone asked me for something. And I kept planning. That baby shower was never really for me. Not to them. It was a chance to host, to gather, to show off. But it was also the last time I was going to let them do it. They just didn't know it yet. The house was too quiet. It was the kind of silence that didn't feel peaceful. It felt like the moment before a scream. Like a breath held too long. like something was coming. I stood in the kitchen, pouring myself a cup of tea, while the soft hiss of the kettle was the only sound in the world. Outside, the sun was barely rising. Inside, the counters were sticky from spilled soda, and the sink overflowed with someone else's dishes. I had placed the notices carefully. One in the center of the table, neatly stacked with 3 more underneath, each one labeled with their names in bold black ink. The baby inside me stirred as I sat down slowly, rubbing my lower back. My body ached, but my mind was clear. I had been preparing for this moment longer than they realized. At 7:02 a.m., I heard the creak of the hallway floorboards. Slippers dragging. My mother. She walked into the kitchen with a tired grunt and froze mid-step when she saw the table. I didn't look at her. I didn't need to. "What is this?" she said, her voice still groggy. I sipped my tea. She picked up the top page and started reading. It took all of 5 seconds for her eyes to widen, her mouth to part. "What the hell is this?" she snapped, voice slicing through the stillness. Another pause. Then she shrieked. "Lily, what is this?" The mug in my hand didn't even tremble. I just took another sip. My father stumbled into the room in his robe, blinking like he hadn't fully woken up. Roger followed a beat later, rubbing his eyes and yawning. "What's going on?" my dad muttered. "She's evicting us," my mother shouted, waving the paper in the air like it had caught fire. Roger stopped dead. "What?" he croaked. I finally looked up. "I gave you 30 days. It's all in writing." "You're kidding," my dad said, stepping forward, snatching a copy for himself. "This is a joke, right? This can't be real. What is this?" "I sent the certified letters yesterday," I said calmly. "They should arrive this afternoon. This is just a courtesy copy." You're kicking us out?" Roger's voice cracked. "What the hell is wrong with you? I'm taking my house back." My mom's hands were shaking. Her voice cracked in half. "After everything we've done for you?" she screamed. "You're going to do this now? When you're about to give birth?" "No," I said. "I'm doing this because I'm about to give birth." Roger slammed his hand on the table. The stack of papers slid, scattering across the floor. "You're overreacting," he yelled. "It was one stupid party that got a little loud. Jesus, Lily. One party." I stood slowly. "You took my baby shower. You turned it into a frat night. You let people I didn't even know trash my house while I was scrubbing frosting off the floor like the damn maid." "We were celebrating," he shouted. "It wasn't even a big deal until you made it one." My mom rounded the table like she might physically block me. "This isn't just your house," she cried. "We've lived here for years." "Yes," I said. "Rent-free." My dad stepped forward, arms out like a mediator. "Come on," he said. "We're family. This is just emotions running high. You don't really want us out. We'll clean up. We'll apologize. We'll make it right." I stared at him. "No," I said. "You'll gaslight me into thinking I'm overreacting like you always do. Then you'll go back to pretending this house and my life are yours to manage." My mom's face was red now. Bright red. She looked like she might explode. "You ungrateful little brat. You think you're better than us because you started a stupid online store? You think that makes you important? We raised you. We sacrificed for you." I laughed. Quietly. Just one breath of disbelief. "You sacrificed me for Roger. Every single time." My father's jaw tightened. "That's not true." I turned toward him. "When I wanted to go to college, you told me it was a scam. When Roger wanted it, you spent thousands on tutors. When I worked night shifts, you told me to stop complaining. When Roger worked one summer job, you called him responsible. I paid the mortgage. I bought this house. And you still called it ours." Roger slammed his chair back. "You've been waiting to do this. You've been planning this the whole time. Haven't you?" "Yes," I said. "I have." He looked at me like I'd stabbed him. "You're throwing your family out over a stupid party. Over a moment. That's sick." "It wasn't a moment," I said. "It was every moment. For years. This just made it obvious." My mom dropped to a chair and started crying, loud, dramatic sobs like a soap opera actress. "How are we going to live? Where are we supposed to go? What will people think?" "That's not my problem anymore," I said. "We won't leave," she snapped suddenly, her eyes wild. "You can't make us leave. You can't just throw your own parents onto the street. I can, I said. And I have. She looked down at the paper still in her hand. Her lips moved as she read the words again like they might change. This isn't legal, she whispered. I reached into the drawer and pulled out a folder. Inside were copies of the deed, the notice, the certified mail receipts. I laid them gently on the table. It is, I said. I made sure. Roger grabbed the folder and flung it across the room. Papers scattered like snow. You're heartless, he said. No, I said. I'm finally protecting mine. The silence returned. Not the uneasy kind from earlier. This one was heavy. I stood there, surrounded by the mess they made, and for the first time in years, it wasn't mine to clean up. I want you all out by the end of the month, I said. I've arranged for a friend to help you pack if you need it. You're not serious, my father said. You'll change your mind. I looked him dead in the eyes. No, I said. I won't. Then I turned and walked back to my room, past the torn-up streamers, the wilting balloons, and the torn edges of the banner that had once spelled my daughter's name. They had erased me. But I was done being invisible. The first 3 days were oddly quiet. Too quiet. I half expected more shouting. More door slamming. But instead, the house settled into a strange limbo where no one looked at me and I didn't try to be seen. They moved like ghosts. Roger stopped blaring music from his room. My mother stopped pretending to clean the kitchen she never actually cleaned. My father sat on the porch for hours with the same cup of coffee barely touched. But I knew the silence wouldn't last. On the 4th day the calls began. It started with Aunt Rachel. Then Uncle Ted. Then my mom's friend from church who hadn't spoken to me in 3 years suddenly texted, "We're really concerned about you, sweetie." Concerned. Right. It was obvious my mother had begun her campaign. She'd been painting me as hormonal, unstable, probably not thinking straight because of the baby. She's making rash decisions, she'd said to someone. I saw the forwarded message from a cousin. We don't want to stress her out, but she needs help. They were spinning it as concern, as love, as the kind of emotional pressure designed to make me feel like the bad guy. The next day my father asked to talk. We'll start contributing, he said. Rent bills. We should have done that before. You're right. He said it like it was a peace offering. Like it erased everything. You had years, I said. You didn't just forget. You chose not to. He nodded. Then added, but think about what this looks like to the rest of the family. There was the shame card. I smiled and walked away. Day 7, Roger tried a different tactic. I talked to Coach Harrison, he said over dinner. He said if I defer a year I might lose my scholarship. If we have to move right now I can't focus. I can't even sleep. I nodded. Tough. You don't even care, he snapped. You didn't care when I was 8 months pregnant and scrubbing frosting off the floor. He slammed his fork down and stormed off. Day 10, I got a call from my business partner. Hey, just a heads up, she said hesitantly. Someone emailed me anonymously claiming you're emotionally unstable and might not be able to handle running the business after the baby comes. They suggested I start looking at new leadership. My stomach sank. But only for a moment. I took a screenshot of the email. Cross-referenced the language with messages my mother had sent before. It matched. Word for word. I didn't reply. I forwarded it to my lawyer. Day 12, they stopped pretending. My mom cornered me in the hallway. I know you think you're strong now, she hissed. But when that baby comes and you're exhausted and overwhelmed, we'll see how long this lasts. Don't come crawling back when you realize you need us. I looked her in the eye. I already realized I don't. Day 16, a sheriff's deputy dropped off a letter at the front door. My dad opened it. Read it. And punched the wall. Court filing, he muttered. They had hoped I wouldn't go through with the eviction legally. That I'd crack. That I'd give up. But the papers were filed. The hearing was scheduled. I wasn't backing down. Day 21, they tried guilt again. My mother sobbed loudly in the living room. Loud enough that the neighbors probably heard. She listed everything she'd ever done for me. How she let me live at home. How she watched over me during my pregnancy. How she sacrificed her peace for me. I sat in my room, noise-canceling headphones over my ears, finishing baby registry updates. Day 25, Roger called his girlfriend over and loudly said in the kitchen, "She's crazy. She's going to ruin her kid's life without us. I walked in, looked at his girlfriend who had been at the baby shower and said, "You helped ruin my baby shower. You might want to leave before I make a list of every underage person who was drinking that night and report it with your name included." She turned pale. She left. Day 28 they started packing. The suitcases appeared like ghosts in the hallway. Slowly. Reluctantly. One bag here. One box there. I didn't gloat. I didn't even smile. I just waited. On the 30th day the house was half empty. My father didn't say goodbye. He just walked out without looking back. My mother stood in the foyer, arms crossed, tears in her eyes. "You'll regret this," she whispered. "Family is forever." "I agree," I said. "Which is why I'm building one that actually deserves to stay." Roger was last. He stood in the doorway, backpack slung over one shoulder. "You're lucky, you know," he said. "Without me there's no one left to blame." "Then I guess I'll finally get some peace," I said. He rolled his eyes and walked out. The door shut behind him. Silence. Not the tense kind. Not the loaded kind. A different kind. A peaceful kind. I stood in the center of the living room. The room looked bigger without their stuff. Brighter. Like it had been holding its breath too. I walked to the nursery. Opened the closet. Folded a few onesies. Placed a soft pink blanket into the crib. Outside the wind moved gently through the trees. I sat down, resting a hand on my belly. And for the first time in my life I felt safe. Not because someone else made it that way. Because I did. Update. It's been 4 years. My daughter just started preschool last month. She wore a little purple backpack and told me she was going to teach everyone how to draw clouds. She's kind, curious, and strong-willed. She reminds me of me, only better. The business is still running. I never had to shut it down even during the newborn phase. I hired 2 more employees and last year we hit 6 figures for the first time. I work fewer hours now. I don't have to hustle like I used to. I finally have space to just be. As for my family, we haven't spoken since they left. I haven't reached out and they haven't tried either. But relatives talk. People love to whisper at weddings and funerals. From what I've heard, Roger dropped out after his first year. Couldn't keep up without someone cleaning up after him. My parents moved in with one of my uncles, but that didn't last long. He apparently kicked them out after 6 months. Something about unpaid bills and my mom being a nightmare. They're not doing well. And no, I don't feel good about that. But I don't feel guilty either. I gave them chance after chance. I asked for the bare minimum. And when they refused to give it, I finally stopped offering everything. Some people say family is unconditional. But I think respect should be. Anyway, that's the update. Do you think I did the right thing? Let me know in the comments and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.